For 2 very long evenings and a full 2-day weekend, along with 60 other adult students of all ages, I was totally mesmerised by everything I heard and experienced during the PSI Mind Development Seminar. I learned to go within and reach deep levels of consciousness with the aid of guided meditation. The leader of PSI, Joe DuPong, took us on a journey where we imagined the colours of the rainbow, with each colour representing a specific purpose or feeling. For instance, blue for love, green for kindness. He then led us deeper into a workshop of the mind, where there were metaphysical tools to help us learn anything we wanted, the inference being that all knowledge is within us, even the power to heal ourselves and others, both physically and mentally. As part of this healing process, in our altered state, we learn to visualize every part of the human body, scanning skin, bones, organs, looking for a possible health problem. Joe told us that we might see a flashing light, say, around a knee, and that could mean the person had a problem there. We were then instructed to send white light, perhaps in the form of a spray or balm, to the area as a method of healing. On the second evening, Joe told us to visualize a friend or a relative and send them white light for healing, even if they didn't actually have an illness. I thought of Therese and saw her, in a figurative sense. She was actually holding her ankle as if she'd hurt it, so I zapped her with healing white light. Joe told us to ask the person the next day how they were feeling, but not to tell them we'd sent healing light. By this time, I'd moved into my own apartment in another beautiful Edwardian house, also in Rosedale. So I called Therese the next day, before I went back to the seminar, and asked her how she was feeling. She said that the day before she'd slipped off the curb when she was crossing the road and twisted her ankle. "That really hurt," she said. "How is it today?" I asked. "Nothing wrong with it, like it never happened. Must have been the ice I put on it." Right, I thought. That's what it was. Of course, I believed that projecting healing, love really, was why her ankle was feeling better. To me anyway, it was proof positive that the power of the mind could work miracles, and it all seemed so simple. The last day of the course was on a Sunday, and in the 3 days leading up to this, Joe repeatedly announced in a very excited voice, "Sunday's coming." His assistants, or disciples, also teased us with the same refrain, "Sunday's coming." Naturally, we were all curious and couldn't wait to see what Sunday had in store. Well, it turns out that the icing on the cake of the course was by testing our psychic healing abilities. I sat on a chair facing a previous PSI graduate, Paul, and told to go into my levels of meditation. He then gave me the name of a male, aged 32, who lived in Glasgow. I scanned the bone dimension of this person and instinctively saw and felt quite a number of broken bones in his body. I told Paul this and he said, "Yes, that's right." Wow, that was so exciting to hear. I also saw that he had a black fingernail on the little finger of his right hand. Paul said there was nothing written on the card, but it didn't mean that it was incorrect. I proceeded to spray his broken bones with my imaginary healing lotion, then moved on to his organs. His lungs were damaged, and his kidneys didn't seem to be working properly. Paul said, "That's correct." Every time he affirmed my diagnosis, it gave me such a thrill. After projecting a healing spray of light to those damaged organs, I took this man's heart in my hands, as we were taught, and could literally feel it beating. It wasn't there, but I could feel it. It was such a strange feeling, because it was all in my imagination, Anyway, the heart seemed healthy. Then I reached over, as if the man was in front of me, and, believe it or not, I took his head and placed it over my head to check his hearing and eyesight. Both were fine. Then, as I imagined testing his speech, my head began to pound with such a pressure, and I was unable to speak at all. I just couldn't get words out. In fact, I was practically gagging and choking and making horrible noises. Paul quickly said, Take off the head and come out of your levels, now. When I came out of my meditative state, my head was hurting so much and I was crying. It was a really intense situation, and I'm not sure Paul knew what to do. What's wrong with this man? I asked him. He desperately wants to speak, but he can't. Paul said the card had read that the man had been in a serious car accident and had been in a coma for 2 years. That explained why he had so many injuries, and of course why he couldn't speak. He wanted to, but he couldn't. Paul told me that one of the PSI graduates had submitted the card, and I might want to talk to him. He took me over to a guy in his mid-20s with a Scottish accent. This was his brother, who I'd worked on. We hugged and cried together, and he thanked me for healing light toward his brother. I then asked him if his brother had a black nail on his little finger, and he laughed. Yes, he got it when he was playing rugby years ago, and it never went away. That's amazing you saw that. All the students in the class, with a couple of exceptions, had experienced accurate readings of the people they'd worked on at a psychic level, and we were all in a state of euphoria. What a high it was, knowing that we had this ability to heal. So now, with this energy and excitement and the knowledge that we were all psychic and could do wonderful things with the power of our minds, we were to go forth and spread the word about PSI mind development. We couldn't tell anyone exactly what happened on the 4-day course, though, just try and convince people to sign up. Since the symbol for PSI was a pyramid, that should have given me a clue that some kind of marketing was expected. But with a born-again enthusiasm for life, I couldn't wait to tell everyone I knew about PSI, although without really telling them too much. I know that I must have come across as very annoying to my workmates and friends, but no one could deny that I had a new zest for life, that I was happier. A few people were curious and came to the introductory lecture, and a couple signed up, but I think most were sceptical. However, I continued to be gung-ho and didn't hesitate to sign up for an advanced 7-day seminar the next week. It cost 3 times more than the 4-day basic course, money I didn't have, but because I was so obsessed with PSI and determined to take the advanced course, I literally would have done anything to satisfy my need to stay on this new high. So I borrowed the money from a cousin. 12 graduates of the 4-day course were chosen for the 7-day seminar, but we had no idea where it would be taking place. None of us were given any details at all and told that we couldn't have contact with family or friends during those 7 days. We were all taken by bus to a remote town somewhere in Ontario and settled into a small hotel. The schedule for the week was much more intense than the 4-day course and resembled a boot camp of the mind and spirit. We were only allowed 4 hours sleep a night, since we were told that was really all we needed. There was yoga at 4 a.m. for an hour, meditation for another hour, breakfast, and then the real work began. The instructors or disciples who'd taken several of these 7-day seminars and had no psychological or medical experience proceeded to break every single person down in the most brutal of ways. We were confronted with every aspect of our lives in an effort to strip us of negativity, fears, guilt, ego, selfishness, jealousies, and so on. For instance, a student would be targeted and a story fabricated by the instructors, such as suggesting one of the men was pussy-whipped by his mother and women in general. The student denied this, and then a collar and leash were put around his neck and he was told to crawl around the floor while the female students were given straps and told to whip him. I refused. It was awful, so humiliating for the student. There were more stories like that, but everything that was done was to help us recognize our true worth and our potential to be successful in every area of our lives. It was personal growth at the utmost level. As much as I abhorred so much of what was taking place, and the fact that we were more or less prisoners for 7 days with someone watching our every move, I did feel that this advanced seminar helped me deal with my grief. It also gave me a newfound inner strength because I refused to be intimidated by the instructors or Joe. They just couldn't get to me, and they hated that. It became my downfall, but also opened my eyes to the PSI cult and the damage it was doing to so many vulnerable souls. Next time, the age of enlightenment and television. Thanks for listening.